Blockchain basics. What is a blockchain? Term. Technically, the blockchain is a decentralized database that is mirrored in the network on a large number of computers. It is characterized by the fact that its entries are combined and saved in blocks. The authenticity of the database entries is ensured by a consensus mechanism used by all computers. The generic term distributed ledger is often used synonymously, even if not every distributed ledger necessarily uses a blockchain. Origin. Blockchain is the basic technology and central innovation of the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. It goes back to a white paper that was published anonymously in November 2008 via a mailing list. The author or group of authors with the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto describes the electronic payment system Bitcoin, which is organized peer-to-peer via the network and does not require a central intermediary. The corresponding Bitcoin system was published as an open-source project in early 2009. Features. A blockchain database can serve as a decentralized booking system to digitally organize all types of property rights, for example land registers or company shares. Since decentralization makes intermediaries potentially unnecessary, the blockchain could be used in many areas in the future and displace previously established processes and technologies as disruptive technology. The main drivers of development are efficiency gains in established process flows, for example in post-trading of securities, and thus also significant forecast cost savings. Technical framework. The ownership structure in a blockchain-based database is securitized and secured using the public key process from cryptography. In particular, the possibility of secure digital signatures is used. In this process, new database entries are cryptographically signed and combined in a block and attached to the previous block. The new blocks will become generally valid through a consensus mechanism. Since changing a block also means changing all blocks created later, which must also be confirmed via a consensus mechanism, a blockchain entry is considered unchangeable from a certain number of newly attached blocks. Bitcoin use case. With a Bitcoin system, the possession of a certain amount of Bitcoin is ensured by the sole knowledge of a corresponding private key procedure. To make a Bitcoin payment, the owner signs the transaction with this private key. On the basis of the corresponding public key known in the network, the other participants can verify the transaction in a forgery-proof manner. Although hackers have successfully stolen Bitcoins by attacking Bitcoin exchanges in recent years, the basic Bitcoin system has not yet been compromised. It thus provides evidence of the basic practicality of blockchain technology. Potential in practice. In a short time, global initiatives of important representatives of the financial industry have formed, which examine possible application scenarios in various areas, for example securities, insurance, etc. In addition to the use of blockchain as a transparent and efficient booking process, intensive research is particularly carried out in the area of smart contracts. Since concrete processes are already being implemented, there is still a very dynamic development. Criticism and outlook. Although there are high expectations with regard to the application potential, it is currently not yet possible to predict how the spread of blockchain-based technologies will develop in practice. Especially in the financial sector, many legal, regulatory and technical framework conditions, with regard to the use of such systems have not yet been finally clarified, and are heavily dependent on the design of the respective blockchain. However, there is also potential outside the financial sector. With the emerging Internet of Things, blockchain technology could, for example, securely certify ownership, verify identities, or process micropayments between devices. What is cryptocurrency? What is a blockchain? The most important thing about the blockchain principle is basically a shared account book. Anyone can check it, but nobody can control it individually. Rather, blockchain is kept up to date by the entire network. Changes are based on very strict rules. A blockchain is nothing more than a series of transaction data based on one another, so-called blocks, which are each provided with a timestamp and a reference to the previous block. A subsequent change of the data is hardly possible without changing all other connected blocks at the same time. Because the data records that are stored on computers of thousands of different users worldwide would have to be changed in this case. This makes counterfeiting of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies almost impossible. What is a transaction? A transaction is a single process in the blockchain network. If this is triggered by an address, this triggers the transfer of coins or an interaction with a smart contract, for example. Nodes, in turn, are computers in a network that have blockchain software. As soon as a transaction takes place, for example an exchange between two nodes, every node in the network finds out within a few seconds. What is a miner? Some of the nodes, known as miners, collect and bundle transactions. Until a while ago, This was actually possible for every PC owner. Meanwhile, the computing effort is so high that it exceeds normal PC capacities. Miners pack several transactions in a box depending on the design of the blockchain. In principle, miners solve cryptographic puzzles in order to process transactions in a blockchain system, which are then combined into blocks. The miner who has solved the puzzle can add the block to the network and receives his reward for it. For their performance, miners receive newly created bitcoins, the so-called block reward. What is the course? Blockchain transactions are basically real-time. The recording and securing in the network, packing in a block, confirmation by the network, practically all inflows and outflows are immediately recorded in a Bitcoin account, for example. It can take 30 to 45 seconds for all the information to be at the nodes involved. The transaction is booked after an hour. What are cryptocurrencies? In total, there are currently thousands of cryptocurrencies, digital currencies that are secured by cryptography. Strictly speaking, encrypted codes are stored digitally and decentrally. This decentralized distribution across many different servers provides security because manipulation is almost impossible. Many, but not all, cryptocurrencies are based on blockchains, in which data blocks are attached to a data record according to fixed rules. Cryptocurrencies offer several advantages over conventional money. Among other things, they are inflation-proof because they are limited and cannot be multiplied. The anonymity of transactions is preserved because there is no data exchange between the sender and recipient of the cryptocurrencies, and they are independent of banks and government intervention. Bitcoin is the best known and oldest blockchain. What is a Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the best known digital, decentralized currency that is created by cryptographic processes. In a blockchain, transactions are stored decentrally, which means that Bitcoins, unlike other real currencies, guarantee security against manipulation and constant accessibility. In contrast to conventional banking, no central processing point is required. The exchange rate from Bitcoin to other means of payment, fiat money, is determined by supply and demand. What is Ethereum? Ethereum is another system based on a decentralized blockchain that is used for the particularly easy execution of smart contracts. It's used for business agreements that are processed automatically. For example, a container could automatically initiate payment for its freight as soon as it reaches its destination. The currency Ether is used as the means of payment. What is Initial Coin Offering (ICO)? ICO stands for Initial Coin Offering and thus for the first issue of a new coin. It is not without reason that the term ICO Initial Coin Offering is based on IPO equals Initial Public Offering, the first issue of a new share or the public issue of company shares that were previously 100% privately owned. New altcoins for Bitcoin are currently being created almost every day, each of which forms an alternative coin. Just like Bitcoin, every coin has a white paper that provides various information about the background and future intentions of the coin. At the beginning, coins serve as a means of payment for the service of a certain bot program. In addition, the profits are invested by the ICO in the further development of the respective bot and other functions and services. What is mining? Bitcoin mining is a computing process in which so-called blocks are generated. The resulting sequence of these blocks is called blockchain. The proof of work in mining is to find a hash value for the block by double SHA-256 calculation that falls below a certain target value. This target value results from the variable difficulty. This is done as follows. A block is initialized by integrating all transactions that have taken place since the last block and calculating the hash value. If a calculation falls below this target value, it publishes its result and this new block is added to the blockchain. If not, it starts again with the initialization of a block. To achieve this goal, the calculator receives a bonus in the form of currently 12.5 Bitcoin transferred to his Bitcoin address. This bonus, including all transaction fees for the last block, is the first transaction in each new block. The respective Bitcoin address also influences the hash value to be calculated, only the difficulty is the same for all miners. Occasionally it happens that two blocks are solved at the same time or within a few seconds, then the nodes decide which block is valid by taking the one that reached them first. It is rare that this so-called fork is longer than 2 blocks, then the fork with the most solved blocks and the higher difficulty is chosen. As it became increasingly difficult for individual miners to find a block, many have joined a mining pool. What is a block? A block is a record. Among other things, it consists of the hash value of the previous block, in order to be able to create a continuous chain. This also includes all transactions and fees that have taken place since the last solved block, and then there is a random number that is used to get a different value when recalculated than when the last calculation. What is the blockchain? The blockchain is a database that is shared between all nodes based on the Bitcoin protocol. It is a sequence of all blocks that have been solved so far and the previous transactions contained therein. This makes it possible for everyone to check the transactions made from all Bitcoin addresses. What is the difficulty? The difficulty is the degree of difficulty when calculating the blocks. It arises because the client is designed so that on average one miner solves a block every 10 minutes. A miner's probability of solving a block is proportional to its existing computing power. The basic idea is that blocks will be calculated within 10 days in 2020. However, since the computing power is constantly changing, the level of difficulty must be adjusted after these blocks. There has been a decrease in difficulty, but since the ASICs it has been increasing almost exponentially. In the near future there is no need to worry about a reduction. What is the bonus? In order to enable a fair distribution of the bitcoins and because the maintenance and operation of the client requires electricity and hardware, the participants who solve a block receive a bonus. It is currently 12.5 Bitcoin, originally 50 Bitcoin. Since the protocol pretends to have all 210,000 blocks, the amount of all mined bitcoins is limited to 21 million. This should happen on average every 4 years, most recently in November 2012, July 2016 and May 2020, the next halving in 2024. In addition, you also get the fees for all transactions that took place during the last block and were integrated into it. What are GH/s? This GHS designates the computing power in gigas hashes per second. You can find out what a hash or hash function is here. What is a pool? A pool is an association of miners who make their computing power available to the pool to solve a block. If a pool finds the solution for a block, the bonus is distributed proportionally, for example according to the respective computing power. Miners who mine in the pool do not operate their own nodes. There are different ways in which the pools handle solving and remunerating the blocks. Some pools offer pay per share, for example, where you get a certain amount of bitcoins for each calculated share. What is a share? A share is a solution for the respective block, which is generated by each miner in the pool. The difficulty of a share must at least correspond to the current difficulty for the block to be solved. What is PPS? PPS equals theoretical value of a hash, or of a few hashes that are theoretically necessary for one share, practically paid out, therefore no variance in the payout value. But of course in the real payout, since you can still find shares randomly distributed. What is PPLNS? Pay per last n shares, equals all Bitcoin that are found are divided into the last n shares. You can deliver a share and never get anything for it, but this is statistically compensated for by the fact that there are shares that are paid for multiple times. Imagine it like an assembly line on which you put buckets, and if someone accidentally catches a great bucket, gold coins are thrown into the buckets over the entire assembly line. Only 100 buckets can be on the conveyor at a time. The more of them you own, the better chances you get something. Even if you stop putting buckets on it, it will take some time for your last bucket to slide along the belt, and you can earn that long without lifting a finger. Paid once, at the beginning when you put the first bucket on the conveyor and it was still full of other buckets, although you then had an average of 10 buckets on the conveyor. What is a client or a node? A client is a node in the Bitcoin network. It is connected to the other clients in the network, peer-to-peer. The status of a client for the network depends on whether it maintains a complete list of all transactions. A client that is used for mining must have a complete list of the valid transactions made so far in order to be able to confirm new transactions. A Bitcoin client represents a special implementation of the Bitcoin protocol. The various clients differ greatly in the way they handle and the number of features, and also from the data volume. The original Bitcoin node in particular has a long loading time when it is downloaded for the first time by fully loading the blockchain. How much profit can I make with mining? As such, the protocol is designed to solve a block every 10 minutes. However, as more and more computing power is used, the difficulty of solving a block increases. At the beginning you mine with CPU, then with graphic cards, FPGAs, and today we are with the ASICs, because every new method brought a large increase in computing power. Over time the previous methods became unprofitable. An ASIC has tens to hundreds of times the performance of FPGAs or graphic cards, so today you can only make a profit with ASICs, even if you don't pay electricity costs. Selling old hardware is more profitable than mine. Since the number of pre-orders from the individual manufacturers is so high and no one knows how many chips are being manufactured, it is currently not possible to expect to make a profit with mining for the next few months. Give this video a like if you appreciate the content. To stay up to date with the latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Check out the description section for more about Keep Trading Me. You have any further questions? Please don't hesitate to reach out in the comments. Thank you for watching.